The year was 2157. Earth looked peaceful from space. Cities were full of lights. Skies were clear. People were busy with work, family, and daily life. But deep inside, something felt wrong. Rayan, a young mechanic, walked through the narrow streets of New Cairo. He looked up at the giant news screen on a tall building. It showed smiling politicians and calm voices saying, "Everything is fine. We are safe." But Rayan knew it was a lie. Strange things had been happening. Government buildings were locked down. Soldiers stood everywhere. Internet signals were weak. Flights were canceled. All countries were quiet, too quiet. Rayan whispered to himself, "Why are they hiding everything?" That night, the sky changed. At first, it was just a sound, a low humming. Then the clouds turned red and stars disappeared. People looked up and screamed. 10 giant ships slowly appeared in the sky. Each ship was the size of a city. Their surface was black and shining like glass. They moved without sound, like ghosts. Then a voice echoed across the earth. It was not a human voice. It was deep, metallic, and powerful. "People of Earth, your planet is now under the control of the Targan Empire." Rayan's eyes widened. Around him, people dropped their phones and ran. Some cried. Others stood frozen. "Your leaders have sold your world. You are now workers of the Targan Empire. Obey, and you will live. Fight, and you will be destroyed." Rayan couldn't believe it. "Sold? How? Who?" he shouted. The screen on the building changed. It showed the world's leaders, presidents, prime ministers, kings, all standing with strange blue alien creatures. Their faces were calm. They said, "This is the best decision for Earth. We must join the universe. This is the future." But Rayan saw the fear in their eyes. They were not leading. They were controlled. In the days that followed, the Targans took over everything. They shut down banks, schools, media, and energy plants. Humans were forced to wear ID bands. People were sent to work zones, giant camps where they built machines for the Targan Empire. Rayan's own brother, Karim, was taken. No one knew where. The world fell silent. But deep underground, a new fire was rising. Rayan joined a small group of rebels. They called themselves the Flame. They lived in old metro tunnels and used forgotten technology. Rayan fixed machines. Others brought food, hacked systems, or spread secret messages. One night, inside the dark tunnel, Rayan spoke to the group. "These aliens think we are weak," he said. "They think they bought Earth. But they bought a storm. We are not slaves. We are fire. And fire fights back." A small girl named Leia sat quietly in the corner. She looked only 9 years old. Her eyes were strange, one green, one blue. She didn't speak much, but sometimes she would draw things. Her drawings showed the Targan ships, days before they appeared. One evening, Leia gave Rayan a picture. It showed a Targan ship, broken, falling from the sky. Rayan looked at her. "When?" he asked. Leia said softly, "Soon." Rayan felt a chill. Who was this child? How did she know? Before he could ask more, an alarm rang. The Targans had found a rebel base in Brazil. Over 200 people were taken. Everyone grew quiet. Rayan stood up. "We need a new plan. A real one." An old scientist in the group, Dr. Ayla, showed a strange metal box. "We stole this from the Targan camp," she said. "It's their tech. We must learn it. Use it." Rayan nodded. "Good. Let's start tonight." But as he opened the device, something happened. A voice came from the box. A soft voice, almost human. "Help us. We are not your enemy." Everyone stared. "Who said that?" asked Rayan. The voice continued. "We are trapped. They use us. They control us too. We are slaves." The room went silent. Rayan looked around. Did anyone else hear that? Leah nodded slowly. They're not the only monsters, she whispered. Rayan closed the box and looked at the group. This is bigger than we thought. Maybe we're not just fighting for Earth. Maybe we're fighting for something much more. Outside, the Targan ships floated quietly above the cities. But below the ground, in the shadows, Earth's answer was being prepared. The buyers may have taken Earth, but they were not ready for what Earth was about to give back. The tunnels under the city were dark and cold. Rayan and his team moved carefully through the old metro lines. Walls were cracked, and old wires hung from the ceilings. It was dangerous, but it was their home now. They called this place the Flame Base. Above them, the Targans ruled the world. But down here, the real Earth still lived. Rayan sat at a small metal table, the strange Targan box in front of him. Around him were the key members of the rebellion. There was Dr. Ayla, the old scientist who once worked for the government. There was Jax, a strong soldier who lost his family to the Targans. There was Mira, a fast hacker who could break into any system. And there was Leia, the little girl with the strange eyes who could hear things no one else could. The group listened again to the message from the Targan device. Help us. We are not your enemy. We are slaves too. Jax slammed his fist on the table. It's a trick. They just want to fool us. Dr. Ayla shook her head. No, this technology, it's very old. It's not Targan-made. Someone else built it. Rayan leaned back and thought. If the Targans were also slaves, then who were the real masters? Veltrax, Leia said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. What did you say? Asked Mira. Leia hugged her knees and rocked slowly. The Veltrax. They sit in shadows. They control Targans. They control everything. Rayan felt a chill run through him. He knew Leia had some kind of gift. Maybe it was magic. Maybe science. But he trusted her. Rayan stood up. We need to understand this tech. If we can break it, maybe we can break their control too. Dr. Ayla smiled sadly. It's not easy, but I'll try. The team started working. Day and night, they studied the device. They found maps, codes, and strange messages. Mira hacked into Targan communication lines. She saw pictures of Targan soldiers fighting something invisible, something that hurt their minds. They are afraid, Mira said. Afraid of something. Meanwhile, Rayan and Jax trained new rebels. They taught them how to fight, how to build small bombs, how to move without making noise. Every day, more people came to join them. Old men, young women, children, even former soldiers. Earth's heart was waking up. One night, while Rayan was fixing an old drone, Leia came to him. She gave him another drawing. It showed a mountain with a hidden door inside it. What is this? He asked. She pointed at the door and said, Answers. Rayan knew they had to find that place. The next morning, Rayan gathered the team. They packed food, weapons, and the Targan device. They followed Leia's directions, walking for miles through broken cities, dead forests, and silent towns. After 2 days, they found it. A lonely mountain stood under a gray sky. Hidden behind thick vines and rocks was a metal door, just like Leia had drawn. Jax tried to open it, but it needed a code. Mira smiled. Leave it to me. With her small computer, she cracked the lock. The door opened with a slow hiss. Inside was an ancient facility, older than the Targans. The walls were covered with symbols none of them could read. Strange machines stood silent. Dust filled the air. Dr. Ayla touched one machine. It started to glow. Suddenly, a hologram appeared, a tall alien with golden skin and sad eyes. The hologram spoke. If you are hearing this, you are the last hope. The Veltrax destroyed our world. They took our minds, our bodies. They used us to conquer others. Now they use the Targans. You must stop them. The image showed a star map. It pointed to a place deep in space. The Veltrax command center. Everyone stared in silence. "We have a way to hit them," Rayan said finally. "A real way." "But how do we get to space?" Jax asked. Rayan smiled. "We steal one of their ships." Everyone laughed a little. It sounded crazy, but crazy was better than dying a slave. As they prepared to leave, Leia stopped and pointed at the wall. There was a small crack. Inside it, Rayan found a crystal, glowing, warm, and alive. When he touched it, he felt a rush of energy. Dr. Ayla looked shocked. "It's a mind crystal. It can break the Veltrax control." Rayan knew then, this was their real weapon. As they climbed back into the cold air, they didn't feel weak anymore. They had hope. They had a plan. And soon, the Tarkans would realize Earth was not a weak planet to be bought and sold. It was a storm waiting to strike. The night was cold, and the wind howled through the broken city streets. Rayan and his team made their way back to the hidden base under the city. They had the mind crystal, a new hope, and the plan to strike back. But there was a problem no one could ignore. Someone in their group was a traitor. The group had been working together for months now. They trusted each other, but something felt off. The traitor was smart, very smart, and kept their secrets hidden. Rayan couldn't shake the feeling that someone was feeding information to the Targans. Every time they made a move, it felt like the Targans were already waiting. As they entered the base, Rayan turned to Jax, Mira, and Dr. Ayla. "Listen," Rayan said quietly. "We have a problem. Someone is leaking our plans." The others exchanged uneasy glances. Dr. Ayla, the scientist, was the first to speak. "You're right," she said. "I've noticed strange things. Some of our codes have been broken before we even used them." The Targans knew too much. Mira clenched her fists. "I checked the systems myself. No one could have gotten in." "That's not true," Rayan said, his voice low. "One of us is the leak." The room went silent. Every face was full of suspicion. Leia, the young girl with strange eyes, sat in a corner, drawing once again. Her drawings were usually just pictures of ships, stars, or strange maps. But tonight, her drawing was different. It showed a figure, a shadowy person, standing in the middle of the group. Rayan felt his heart stop. "Leia," he said, walking over to her. "What is this?" Leia looked up slowly. "There is a darkness. Someone hides in the light." The room grew colder as Rayan's stomach twisted. "Someone in here," he said, his voice trembling. Jack stepped forward. "No, we're a team. We trust each other." "I know," Rayan said, "but trust doesn't always keep you safe." They all agreed that they needed to find out who the traitor was. But trust was already breaking down. Everyone watched everyone else, as if the walls themselves were listening. The next few days were filled with tension. No one knew who they could trust anymore. Rayan spent every moment going through old plans, checking and rechecking every communication. But nothing seemed to make sense. Then, one evening, Mira pulled Rayan aside. "I found something," she said in a whisper. "It's in the data logs from our last mission." Rayan's heart raced as he followed her to the small tech room. Mira showed him the screen. It was filled with data, mission plans, coordinates, maps. But one thing caught his eye. A small message hidden in the code. "The rebels are close. They will attack tomorrow. Do not forget the new orders. Kill them all." Rayan's breath caught in his throat. That message, it came from inside the base, Mira said. "Someone's sending these orders to the Targans." Rayan's fists clenched. "We need to move fast. Whoever is working with them is planning something big." Mira nodded. "I've been monitoring the Targan channels. The attack is set for midnight." "Then we'll be ready," Rayan said. "We're not going to let them win." They gathered the group, told them about the leak, and prepared for a showdown. But as they were gearing up, something unexpected happened. Leia, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, suddenly stood up. Her eyes were wide with fear. "They're coming," she said, her voice shaky. Rayan looked at her. "Who?" "The Targans." Leah shook her head. "Not them. The Veltrax. They are here." The ground seemed to shake as if the very air around them was alive with danger. Rayan could feel it now. Something was wrong. The Targans were only the beginning. Suddenly, the base lights flickered, and a voice filled the room. "Rebels of Earth, we know who you are. We know where you hide. The Veltrax are here." A cold chill ran down Rayan's spine. The voice came from nowhere, as if it was inside his head. The sound was both terrifying and powerful. "We're too late," Rayan muttered. "The Veltrax already know." Then it happened. The doors to the base slammed shut, locking everyone inside. The walls began to hum with a strange energy. Something was trying to control them, to make them weak. Rayan ran to the control panel and started typing furiously. "We need to cut off their signal. If we don't, they'll take us all." Mira and Jax rushed to help, but Dr. Ayla suddenly shouted, "Wait, there's someone in here with us. I just saw him." Rayan spun around. There was a shadow in the corner, a man standing there, watching them. His face was pale, his eyes cold. "Who are you?" Rayan demanded. The man smiled faintly. "It's me, Rayan. You know me." The group froze. This man, he looked familiar. He was one of them, or had been. Then Rayan realized it was Omar, the man who had disappeared months ago. The one they thought was dead. The one they thought had been taken by the Targans. But Omar wasn't dead. He was here. And he was working for the Veltrax. You're the traitor," Rayan whispered. Omar nodded, his smile widening. "I'm not just a traitor, Rayan. I'm their agent. And now, I'm going to make sure Earth falls." The room went dark. The lights flickered and went out, leaving the group in total darkness. The only sound was the heavy breathing of the rebels, their hearts racing in fear and anger. Rayan gripped his weapon tightly, his eyes searching the shadows. Omar, the traitor, was still there, standing in the corner, his cold smile echoing in the silence. "You think you can win, Rayan?" Omar's voice was calm, almost mocking. "The Veltrax are too powerful. You're just children playing with fire." Rayan's hands shook with rage, but he forced himself to stay calm. He couldn't let Omar break them now. Not when they were so close. "Why, Omar?" Rayan asked, his voice tight. "You were one of us. We trusted you." Omar's smile faded. "I never cared about your rebellion. I was always playing a bigger game. The Veltrax promised me power. They promised me a future where Earth would bow to us." Jack stepped forward, his fists clenched. "You betrayed us all. You." But before he could finish, a loud crash echoed through the base. The walls began to shake as if something massive was pounding on them from the outside. The ground vibrated beneath their feet. "They're here," Omar said softly. "The Veltrax are already inside your precious base. It's over." Suddenly, the doors to the base began to open on their own, revealing a wave of dark, shadowy figures. The Veltrax. They were taller than humans, their skin covered in black armor that seemed to absorb the light. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but their eyes burned with a cold, metallic glow. Rayan could feel the fear running through his veins, but he knew this was the moment. The moment they either won or lost. "You're not taking this planet," Rayan said through gritted teeth, his voice steady. The Veltrax moved forward, their weapons raised. But as they did, the ground beneath them began to rumble again. A deep sound, like thunder, filled the air. The rebels were not alone. Suddenly, from the shadows, the Targans appeared. They had been watching, waiting, and now they stepped forward to stand with the rebels. The Targans, once the enemies of Earth, now stood united with the humans. A low voice echoed from the Targan commander. We have been slaves long enough. No more. Rayan looked at the commander. You're helping us. We are not your enemies anymore, the Targan commander said. The Veltrax enslaved us as well. We fight with you now. With the Targans by their side, the rebels had a chance. But it wasn't enough. The Veltrax were too many, and their power was too great. Just as the battle was about to begin, Leah, the little girl, stepped forward. She held the glowing mind crystal tightly in her hands. Her eyes were glowing with an unnatural light. Leah? Rayan called out, his voice filled with concern. Leah didn't speak. Instead, she raised the crystal high, and suddenly, a massive burst of energy erupted from it. The air shimmered, and the ground shook violently. The Veltrax stopped in their tracks, as if frozen by an invisible force. For a moment, everything was still. Then, the Targans moved. They attacked, charging forward with their weapons drawn. The Veltrax tried to fight back, but they were disoriented, their minds under attack by the power of the crystal. Rayan and the rebels fought alongside the Targans, taking advantage of the confusion. Jax and Mira led the charge, their weapons firing at the Veltrax soldiers. Dr. Ayla used her knowledge of alien technology to disable their shields. The battle was fierce, but the tide was turning. Rayan spotted Omar again, trying to escape in the chaos. "Omar," he shouted, "it's over." Omar looked back, his eyes filled with hatred. "You think you've won. The Veltrax will never be stopped. You're just delaying the inevitable." Rayan chased after him, his footsteps echoing through the halls of the base. Omar reached a control panel and pressed a button, activating a hidden defense system. But it was too late. Rayan reached Omar just as he was about to launch a final attack. He tackled him to the ground, pinning him down. "You betrayed us," Rayan growled, "but you won't destroy us." With a quick movement, Rayan disarmed Omar and dragged him to the center of the room. The rebels surrounded them, their eyes full of anger and defiance. Omar's cold smile faded, replaced with a look of fear. "You think you've won," he said again. "The Veltrax are everywhere. They will return." Rayan shook his head. "Not if we stop them now." Leah, still holding the mind crystal, walked up to Omar. She looked down at him, her eyes filled with sorrow. "You're not the enemy," she said softly. "But you chose the wrong path." Without warning, she held the crystal to Omar's forehead. A burst of light filled the room, and Omar's body went stiff. For a moment, there was silence. Then, Omar collapsed to the ground, unconscious but alive. Rayan looked at the others. "We've won the battle," he said. "But the war is not over. The Veltrax are still out there. We need to find them, and we need to stop them. For good." The Targans, now free from their masters, nodded in agreement. "We will help you," the Targan commander said. "Together, we will destroy the Veltrax." Rayan turned to the rebels. "This is it. The final rebellion has begun." The battle had ended, but the war was far from over. Rayan stood at the front of the rebel base, looking out over the battlefield. The ground was littered with the remains of fallen Veltrax soldiers, their black armor shattered and smoking. The Targans and the rebels had fought side by side. But now a new challenge awaited them. "We've won this fight, but the Veltrax are still out there," Rayan said, his voice firm. Beside him, the Targan commander nodded. "And they will come again. They will send reinforcements. They will rebuild. We must strike now, before they can recover." Rayan turned to face his team. Jax, Mira, Dr. Ayla, and Leah stood nearby, their faces filled with determination. The rebels were stronger than ever, but they knew the next battle would be the most dangerous one yet. "We need to find their central command," Rayan continued. "If we take down the Veltrax's leadership, the rest of their forces will crumble." Mira stepped forward, her fingers flying across a small computer screen. "I've been tracking their signals. There's a hidden fleet of ships near the asteroid belt, just outside the reach of Earth's defenses. It's heavily guarded, but if we get in, we can destroy it. Then that's where we go, Rayan said, his voice filled with resolve. We'll hit them hard. We'll take down their command once and for all. The Targan commander raised an eyebrow. A small force like yours can't take on the Veltrax fleet alone. You'll need more support. Rayan smiled. We've already got it. The next morning, Rayan and the team gathered their equipment and prepared for the mission. The Targans, now fully free from the Veltrax's control, offered their best ships and fighters to the cause. The rebels and Targans would strike together, united as one. As they launched from Earth's atmosphere, the weight of the mission hung heavy in the air. This was no longer just about fighting back. It was about ending the Veltrax's reign of terror for good. The journey to the asteroid belt was tense. Every moment, they expected an ambush. But as they approached their target, the Veltrax fleet came into view. Massive, dark ships that seemed to block out the stars. They were ready. We don't have much time, Jack said, his voice tight with urgency. Once we get too close, we'll be spotted. We need to split up, Rayan said, his mind racing. Mira, Dr. Ayla, you two stay with the main ship. Jax and Leah, you're with me. We'll infiltrate their command ship. Mira and Dr. Ayla nodded, heading to their assigned posts. Jax grinned at Rayan, ready to do some damage. Rayan returned the grin. Always. The rebel ship plunged into the heart of the Veltrax fleet, dodging fire from enemy ships. Rayan's heart raced, but his focus never wavered. They had to get inside. As they approached the command ship, the enemy was already preparing to fight back. Veltrax ships surrounded them, blasting away with powerful weapons. But Rayan and his team were faster. The rebels and Targans fought back with precision, taking out enemy ships one by one. We're almost there, Rayan shouted. Get ready to board. The rebel ship slammed into the side of the command vessel, tearing through the outer defenses. Rayan, Jax, and Leia quickly donned their armor and prepared to infiltrate. The door opened with a hiss, and they stormed inside, guns raised. The Veltrax soldiers inside were ready. They fought fiercely, but the rebels had the advantage of surprise. With every strike, Rayan felt the weight of Earth's future on his shoulders. They couldn't afford to fail. As they pushed forward through the command ship, they reached the central control room. It was dark, lit only by the glow of alien technology. And standing in the center was General Vorn, the leader of the Veltrax forces. Well, General Vorn said, his voice cold. The rebels finally show their faces. Rayan stepped forward, his weapon aimed at the general. This ends now, Vorn. Vorn's eyes glowed with a strange, menacing light. You think you can defeat us? The Veltrax are unstoppable. You are nothing. We are Earth, Rayan replied, his voice fierce. And we'll never stop fighting. Without warning, Vorn raised his hand, and the entire room seemed to vibrate with power. The walls hummed as if alive, and the air was thick with a strange energy. But Rayan stood tall, refusing to back down. Now, Jax, Rayan shouted. Jax immediately launched a series of explosive charges, blasting the walls and disabling the ship's systems. The room shook as the power of the ship began to flicker and fail. General Vorn snarled, his hands crackling with energy as he charged toward them. But before he could reach them, Leia stepped forward. Holding the mind crystal, she focused all her energy into it. A burst of light shot from the crystal, striking Vorn directly in the chest. The general froze, his body convulsing as the crystal's power overtook him. No, Vorn screamed, his voice filled with rage. You cannot destroy me. But it was too late. The energy from the crystal overwhelmed him, and with one final scream, General Vorn collapsed to the ground, defeated. The room went silent. The rebels had won. But their mission wasn't over yet. We've done it, Rayan said, breathing a sigh of relief. But the war's not over. The Veltrax may be defeated, but there are others out there. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. The Targan commander stepped forward, nodding. "We are with you, Rayan. Together, we will ensure Earth's future." Rayan looked at his team, his friends, and smiled. The battle for Earth had been long and hard, but they had finally won. And with the Targans by their side, they were ready for anything. The war was over, but a new chapter had just begun.